Scuba. I'm your co-host today. My name is Jamya King, and I'm here with Psych Live. Here's Ariana Artisan. Coming to you from the Tragic Coast.
Okay, let's go.
Here's what we were learning tonight about a growing issue in the workforce: bias in hiring against people with mental issues and those with a criminal record. A recent study reveals that even when job applicants are fully qualified, their chances of getting hired can drop significantly based on their background alone. In fact, applicants with both a mental illness and a criminal history were rated the least likely to be hired, showing how powerful stigma still is in today's hiring process. And the numbers help explain just how serious the issue is. In the United States, unemployed among firmly incarcerated individuals. Fuck, you messed me up.
Wait,
where are you?
It won't zoom. It won't like move. Right here.
Incarcerated individuals. Where am I? Oh, should I just keep going? It's estimated to be between 25% and 40%, far higher than the general population. At the same time, some studies show that around 37% of employers are likely to reject applicants simply because they have a criminal record, regardless of qualifications. For individuals with mental illness, the situation isn't much better. Research shows they are significantly more likely to be unemployed than those without mental health conditions, and stigma continues to play a major role in the gap.
Researchers also tested whether a short training session highlighting the benefits of hiring individuals from these groups could reduce bias. The results showed only small improvements, and it didn't significantly increase hiring decisions. That suggests these attitudes may be deeply rooted and harder to change than expected. Another key takeaway: simply having experience or familiarity with these groups didn't always reduce bias. In some cases, it actually led to more hesitation, possibly due to negative stereotypes or limited exposure. Experts say this matters because employment plays a major role in stability. Without access to jobs, individuals leaving prison or managing mental health conditions face higher risks of long-term unemployment or even reoffending, continuing a cycle that impacts.
The bottom line tonight, while conversations around fairness and second chances are growing, the data shows stigma is still influencing who gets hired and who gets left behind. Reporting from the Treasure Coast, we'll continue to follow how this issue affects our local workforce and communities.
Hello, my name is Ariana Artisan with Psych Live. I'm here with
Ariana
from Vero Beach Outback. We're discussing the impacts of hiring somebody with mental illness or criminal history in work environments. So, Bree, would you hire someone who has a criminal record? Why or why not?
Here we absolutely would, just because we don't check somebody's background before we hire somebody or interview them.
Do you think people with mental illness are treated fairly in workplaces?
I can say here they are, yes. I can't say everywhere, but definitely here.
What do you think would help reduce discrimination against people with mental health or criminal backgrounds?
Education, knowing how to communicate or help alleviate some pressure on all ends. Definitely education.
Okay. All right. What factors do you think employees consider most when deciding whether to hire someone?
Their reliability, transportation, if you're coming into work or for an interview, prepared for the interview, and definitely, their accountability. Can you take ownership of the, things that we do here, and trying to drive for success.
Wait. You don't think the music might be louder than you guys talking?
We can like sub out the music in the backgrounds. Like there's like websites I could do.
Okay, just asking.
And you can also play it back too. And
What are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. That's a good question.
If you were an employer, what concerns might you have about hiring somebody with a criminal history?
Typically, I don't look at criminal history. So if I were to know that somebody had a criminal history, I think the biggest one here in our business would be somebody if they had a criminal history of theft. So maybe just a little more eye on them while they're on shift, but we don't, I'm not going to go out of my way to make sure that they're, not taking my shrimp out of my walk-in unless I notice something's up.
Yeah. All right. Do you think someone's past should affect their ability to get a job today?
No, I mean, it really just depends on their past, I guess. But everyone deserves a second chance, third, fourth, fifth chance. If I didn't have one, I probably wouldn't be here. So yeah, I definitely think that everyone should have the ability to be better in their life. Yeah.
Do you think training or education could help employers become more open to hiring people with mental illness or criminal backgrounds?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think everyone could do much better in the world with education and learning how to better help people that have mental illness. And criminal history is just somebody's mistake, and how do we help them grow past it? So.
How important is employment for someone trying to rebuild their life after incarceration or mental health struggles?
Extremely important. Having people around you to support you. It's absolutely hard to do anything by yourself, but to come out of criminal history or to suffer from mental illness and have nobody really kind of sucks. So definitely a big group of support and make you feel like this is where you're supposed to be and help you build up. Yeah, absolutely. 100% important for sure.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Welcome to Psych Live. This is Jamya King, and I'm here with.
Fenicky Nasistine.
And today we'll be discussing hiring people with mental illness and discrimination of criminal records. All right, first question. Do you believe someone's past should permanently affect their job opportunities?
No, I don't believe that it should affect them at all. I believe that people change.
All right. And do you think employers are more concerned about safety, liability, or stigma when they don't hire someone with a record?
I believe that, so it depends. It depends what you're referencing to. If it's a small business that's just breaking grounds, they would be more worried about stigma, right? Because they have nothing else. They don't have anything to build yet, right? They have to build a rep, okay? Whereas a large company like, let's say, Walmart is well known, it's established, so hiring someone who is incarcerated for, God knows what, wouldn't affect Walmart in any way, shape, or form, Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you believe people with mental health conditions face challenges when trying to get a job? Why or why not?
I don't believe that they face a challenge getting a job. I feel that they might face challenges keeping a job, sustaining it. The reason why I believe that is because obviously someone who suffers with, let's say, mental illness, they probably have to take medicine, they have to, have therapy, etc., right? There could always be an inconsistency, right? There could be a down day, a day where it's down, where they're having a bad day, and that may affect their job. Whereas someone who isn't suffering with mental illness, they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about, oh, did I take my medicine? Am I going to have a down day? Is today going to be a good day? So it's not a challenge with getting the job. It's a challenge with sustaining it. Mm-hmm.
All right. And how do you think having a criminal record affects a person's chance of being hired?
I do know someone who does have a criminal record, and it's very hard. It's very hard for them, to get a job. It takes a lot of trials, and usually the job that they get, it's like minimum wage job, fast food job, stuff like that. If even hired,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think society treats people with a mental illness fairly in the workplace? Why?
I believe that they do treat them fairly. Now, time has changed, people are different. People are now standing up for each other, speaking up for injustice, Me Too movement. There's a lot that has changed where that the society as a whole is more accepting of diversity. Mm-hmm.
Do you think stereotypes influence hiring decisions? Can you give an example?
Yes, I do. One example, a common example, is names, right? As a hiring manager, I would be a little reluctant with interviewing someone with a name like Shawanda, and less reluctant with interviewing someone with a name like Emily, you know?
And do you think knowing someone who was previously incarcerated would change how you view hiring them?
Yes, for sure. And again, that falls back on where are we? Are we an established company or are we just starting up? You know, so it depends. If we're just starting up, you want to keep things squeaky clean. You want to build a reputation where it's good, right? Whereas, again, like Walmart or Target or something else like that, that could stand good on its own. They wouldn't worry about hiring someone with a criminal background because it won't affect them.
All right, that's the last of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Now we're back with maybe an opposing opinion about bias in the workforce. Hiring discrimination against people with mental illness is one of those problems that doesn't get nearly enough attention and yet affects millions of people every day. We talk more openly about mental health than we used to, which is genuinely processed, but that hasn't translated into fairness when it comes to getting a job. People are still being passed over not because they can't do the work, but because of assumptions that have no real bias in fact. The ADA exists, protections are in place, and still the discrimination continues. To actually fix this, we need to understand where it comes from and what it causes people. The research backs this up. Studies published in social science and medicine found that applicants who disclosed a mental health condition got fewer callbacks than equally qualified candidates who didn't have the same resume. Fewer opportunities simply because they were honest about their health. That implicates bias at work. Employers aren't necessarily trying to discriminate. They just have unconscious associations that quietly steer their decisions.
Hello, my name is Ariana and I'm here with
Sean Brennan.
And I'm here to ask a couple of questions about whether there's bias in hiring for jobs. So, do you believe someone's past should permanently affect their job opportunities?
Definitely not. Everybody changes as life goes on. You know, they've done their time, they've done their duties, they've made the changes. They could be a different person, so I give everybody a chance.
Okay. Do you think employers are more concerned about safety, liability, or stigma when they don't hire someone with a record?
I don't believe in that, no. I think that safety and liability is probably not a concern more than trusting that individual.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe people with mental health conditions face challenges when trying to get a job? Why or why not?
Absolutely. I think a lot of employers will not give the mentally challenged people a chance to hold a job or a position in any kind of workplace. And if they do, I think they're very limited on what they can do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How do you think having a criminal record affects a person's chances of being hired?
Criminal record will definitely hurt somebody being hired in any position. Of course, depending on what that criminal record is, but there's always that liability behind that, thinking that something's going to happen in the workplace, whether it's, you know, theft, injury, whatever it may be.
Do you think society treats people with mental illness fairly in a workplace?
I do not. I think that, once again, they're overlooked in the workplace, and they just have them doing minimal stuff and not working them to their capabilities to learn or grow more.
Do you think knowing someone who was previously incarcerated would change how you view hiring them?
I don't think so. Everybody's situation is different, so I don't think that would impact a hiring, concern.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm here with Psych Live. My name is Ariana Artizone, and I'm here with
Michael Nefsinger.
Today we'll be discussing bias in hiring people with mental illnesses and discrimination of people with criminal records. So my first question is, do you believe someone's past should permanently affect their job opportunities?
I don't think necessarily their past should permanently affect it. I think it should be taken into consideration, and the details need to be kind of fleshed out in order to understand what happened or what occurred cause the situation. I think every human being deserves a chance to explain themselves and to say where they were at when the decisions were made or the events happened. So the best answer is it really depends. It really depends.
Okay. All right. Do you think employees or employers are more concerned about safety, liability, or stigma when they don't hire someone with a record?
I think in my profession, in the education world, a lot of the times we, by state statute, are limited by the amount, by whom and who we cannot hire with a record. Mm-hmm. With that being said, there are misdemeanors and some felonies that we will take into account when interviewing them. And sometimes we might ask for more details on to kind of get to the bottom of what occurred. So again, it really comes back down to what was the violation, what was the outcome of that violation, and the details of the event or violation that took place that helps us kind of dictate that decision. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, there are things, if you're a violent felon, something along those lines, we wouldn't hire anybody into an education situation if you're a violent felon or something along those lines.
Okay. Do you believe people with mental health conditions face challenges when trying to get a job? Why or why not?
It's a great question. I think it depends on their ability to talk about it and reflect on it. If it's a severe mental handicap or a mental condition where it's preventing them in the interview to be able to engage in a professional way, that's going to affect that hiring, right? Mm-hmm. If they're saying and doing things that obviously you don't want as part of your community, your team, that's going to affect it. But, in most cases, we're blind to any what we're calling, a mental handicap or a mental background or a situation. We're not aware of it in most cases. So a lot of the times it can't be brought into it unless it's either obvious in the interviewing process or it's brought to the attention by the interviewee to us as the interviewers.
Okay. How do you think having a criminal record affects a person's chances of being hired?
I think it varies from place to place. Me as a human being, I'm very open to giving somebody a second chance. We all make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And so I'm open to it. But being in the world of education, we are our hiring policies and procedures. It's not in-house. We don't decide it here. It's decided by state statute of who has a record and who has a background that can be hired or not hired.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think society treats people with mental illness fairly in the workplace?
I think there's an attempt to do it. I think sometimes, depending on the mental illness or the mental handicap, the extremity of it is sometimes it might be difficult not to. Mm-hmm. It might be difficult to ignore it, and I think it depends on how that manifests itself in a day-to-day, how it manifests itself in what's going on in the situation. But I am afraid that there is some type of discrimination against people who have a mental disability, because from what I understand, when you first see it and you don't understand it, it just looks like someone acting poorly or making bad decisions. But if it's out of their control, then that's something completely different. But I think it really takes an understanding of what the situation is.
Do you think stereotypes influence hiring decisions? And can you give me an example?
Stereotypes of...
I don't know what the stereotypes are like. I'm trying to think. Like,
what was the question?
As in, what do you think stereotypes influence hiring decisions? But this was one I had to cut out when I did Sean's last night.
Really?
Yeah, because he didn't know how to answer this question. Stereotypes as in, like, Miss Nikki gave a good example of, like, names.
Mm-hmm.
Like, someone would be more inclined to hire someone by the name Emily instead of, like, what was it, Shawanda or something?
Yeah. Like, what's
okay.
Like, those
So,
kind of just coming into
I got you. So the stereotypes aren't connected to people with a mental illness. It's
Yeah,
just
no,
stereotypes.
just stereotypes
Absolutely.
general.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, being somebody who's been a victim of that myself, mm-hmm. and I think it does affect it, unfortunately. And I wouldn't say it does here. I haven't experienced it at my workplace at all here, but I think it absolutely does. And you know, when I was younger, and I grew up in the '80s, and it was a very different world back then. And I remember being your all's age and going to interviews, and there definitely being prejudice against certain stereotypes in the interview. I think it's gotten better. I know it's really positive here, but I'm sure it still is out there and affecting the interviewing process for sure.
Yeah. Alright. Do you think knowing someone who was previously incarcerated would change how you view hiring them?
Sure, because I think if I knew them, I would understand what the circumstances were, right? I mean, you can get incarcerated for not paying your taxes, which is a terrible thing, not to pay your taxes, but sometimes people don't realize they haven't paid their taxes. And, you know, if somebody came in and said, if I was a friend of mine, either I forgot to pay my taxes and this happened and I got locked up for 2 days and now I have a record or whatever it might be, that's a really strange circumstance, you know, and it could be a wonderful human being and be a wonderful educator or be whatever it is. And so, yes, knowing them, I'm assuming that allows me to know the situation. And if you know the situation, then you can better make an informed decision on hiring.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
You got it. Thanks.